Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres, and when I'm not hosting this podcast, I'm the Director of Executive Search at Dwyer Partners, recruiting top talents in the consumer goods and retail industries, which is exactly the industries that we talk about on this podcast. On a bi-weekly basis, we interview leaders, top talents, and luminaries in, again, the consumer goods and retail industries. If you haven't yet, remember you can follow us on our LinkedIn page where you'll join a community of 15,000 plus members and counting. And remember, we are members of a family of podcasts, which is led by the CPG guys at the other side of the Atlantic. So if you want to learn about what's happening in the omni consumer goods world over there, do tune into the CPG guys, which you can also find a link on our website. And very excited today to be joined not by one, but by two industry trailblazers on the show today. And with them, we'll explore how food companies look to follow trends and innovate through data. So it will be interesting because on one side, we have an FMCG company, and on the other side, we could call it retailer, restaurant chain. We'll discover what's more accurate. So on one side, we have Jaime Liriano, who's head of marketing of Northern Europe at General Mills. And on the other side, we have Iñigo Garcia, who's the Director of Global Insights and Analytics at McDonald's. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Hello.
Great. Thanks for having us, Daniel.
Thanks for joining me from either side of the Atlantic, because for the audience to know, Jaime sits in London with General Mills and Iñigo sits in Chicago with McDonald's, right?
Yeah, headquarters are here, yeah.
Exactly. Great. Well, guys, for the audience to get to know you a bit better, and obviously I'll leave links in the show notes to your LinkedIn profile so people can stalk you a little bit and see what you're all about. But maybe you can give us a quick download of what you do now and just very briefly about your prior experience. Maybe Iñigo, you can start.
Sure. Yeah, I can start. Well, my name is Iñigo Garcia, and then my background comes mainly from MCG because I was working for Nielsen IQ right now, 9 years, yeah, more or less. And then after Nielsen, I was working for L'Oreal and PepsiCo, so all CPG brands. And since 2018, I worked for McDonald's. My first stage was in McDonald's Spain as a strategy and insights lead. But 2 years ago, more or less, I moved to Chicago to take the role of Global Menu Insights Director in headquarters. And well, right now, my team and I lead all the research around the McDonald's menu. Yes, amazing. To identify and develop the big opportunities and support to the global menu strategy for decision making around our strategy.
So you're basically looking at all the menus worldwide and looking at ways to optimize them.
Yeah, it's interesting because at the end of the day, 70% of our business comes from core products, but there are another 30% which comes from more local initiatives. Then, we are trying always to find the right balance between which is the core and which is the global initiatives, but giving to the market flexibility to have their own market nuance to try to meet the needs for the local consumers. So yes, it's really, really interesting.
Absolutely. So Jaime, hi again. Tell us a bit about your career background. What led you to be the head of marketing for General Mills, Northern Europe?
And first, again, Daniel, thanks so much for having me. As you were mentioning, I'm currently leading marketing for Northern Europe in General Mills, which is basically about leading the function and the growth agenda for the region and serving the dream consumers of Northern Europe, taking the DACH region, Benelux, and the Nordics throughout the opportunities and the General Mills portfolio. Previously, I was leading marketing and category for our Iberia business. And Before that, most of my career has been always in CPG, in sales and marketing, or or marketing, jumping from one to the other in local, regional, and global roles in food and beverages, beauty, and consumer healthcare.
And across a few markets as well.
Yes, correct. Correct. I have been blessed with the opportunity to serve consumers in Latin America, Europe, lately Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And the more I learn, the more I see there's plenty. There's plenty more to explore and keep learning.
Yeah, I imagine. So, guys, one thing that you have in common is that you both work in foods, and food is something that, I mean, for us that are passionate about it, we're very passionate. We all know people that say that they would rather swallow a pill than eat, but I think that's the minority of the population. And one very cool thing is that it's not, especially in the last few years, we don't eat the same from one year to the next. We incorporate new elements to our diets, etc. So, long story short, what are the current big food trends that you're seeing? Maybe Jaime, you can start here.
Absolutely, absolutely, Daniel, and come on. I think more than ever, the way we are consuming, or the way the consumers are approaching foods is evolving faster than ever. And I will start with one and pass the ball to Inigo quickly. But for me, the biggest trend I'm seeing right now is food delivery more than food. And this is the hyper stretch approach for food that has become a source of joy, a source of well being, a source of ease, and a source of even manifesting the values for our consumers. The rise of things like the comfort food, the rise of trends that when I'm feeling enjoy, when I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling stressed, I recur to food. When I'm having that stretching energy, I recur to food. For taking care of myself, for rewarding myself. And I think the evolution of food as a reward, lately we are seeing consumers that instead of rewarding themselves with a trip or rewarding themselves with something physical, is about a great meal. And that's coming over and over again, or a way to celebrate things at home, a way to enable ease and free time, and last but not least, value from the sourcing, but also the things that you are sharing with your family. And come on, there's cultures that's been very, very, very core to them. Like, for example, Italians express love through food, but this is something that we're seeing that is more embraced more and more.
Or Mexico, for example, is a country where people have the absolute devotion for their food. Everybody has like their favorite taco place, and they like love to talk about food. Inigo, what trends do you see in foods?
Well, first of all, I feel very lucky because in McDonald's we have a foresight team. Then it's the first time that I had the opportunity to work with a foresight team, and that it's amazing because at the end of the day, they are bringing the key trends that we are going to face in the following 3, 5, 7 years, and they are helping us a lot to try to draw the different scenarios that we can face in the future. Then from then we have identified 6 potential future shifts that we have seen. First of all, as Jaime said, it's about the well-being, but well-being as a lifestyle more than the desire for more personal control over the wellness, which means that okay, I am conscious about the thing that I want to do, and the things that I want to eat, and then I am going to my behavior is going to be like I am thinking. So it's very interesting for us because it's changing the way that we are eating. The second one would be more about the risk control, because here we are, the consumers are saying, okay, it's a balancing aspiration, but with a necessity. Right now, we are seeing how the inflation is impacting in the pocket, in the share of pocket, and then the share of pocket war. It's much strong than ever because all brands are competing with all brands. Then it's super interesting. Also here, I think that the digital world is coming a couple of very interesting trends, which is the brand entertainment. First of all, we are trying to create genuine connections to escape from the serious world, I would say. But at the same time, the digital, which is the immediately and the things that needs to happen right now, we are moving from a fiction-free world, from easy and quick to pain-free and durable. So the new generation, the Gen Z, I think that they are looking for to be more sustainable, everything, and then they are looking for the things which are quick, easy and quick, but also mm, mm, for durable, a little more than we already have right now. And then connecting with the sustainability, we have seen that for sure the new generations are more conscious about the environment and how we take care of the environment. And then for them, the green is the new deal for sure. They know that the small choices that could make a big impact on the planet, and then they are more conscious. And it also in the food. Service, we are very conscious about the things that we can do in trying to build new positive food systems and these kind of things. And also the last one trend that we have identified, it's about the non-norm is the norm, which is that there are new battlegrounds for the activists and also the network, the social networkings and the different platforms that the users can use, give voice to everyone to try to be an activist person about what they are thinking. So these are the six main shifts that we have identified. But here I have one question, the $1 billion question, probably to Jaime, which is that always we are thinking on this, which is where the trends comes from the away from home or comes from in home. And I would like to know what Jaime is thinking on that.
And I think that's a brilliant question. And I think we are seeing an evolution when it comes to that. I think nowadays food service, restaurant, away from home has become a key prescriptor. And that's something that we've seen a massive acceleration in, I would say, the trailblazer geographies of the world. And I'm speaking about the big capitals. But let's think 30, 40, even 20 years ago. All the major shifts in the traditional cuisines that we've seen came from in home. And now we are seeing places where new cuisines, new ways of doing things are developed through the away from home. Let me get for one of the categories that actually we have the pleasure in General Mills to say we have democratized or we have amplified throughout the globe, which is a Mexican food. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we embarked in this journey in Europe, this was something that consumers discovered basically at the supermarket because they were traveling around, but the mass were discovering the Mexican food or interacting with Mexican food firsthand for the first time in a supermarket, a hypermarket. If you press fast forward to today, now what we are seeing is something that is absolutely opposite. Geographies where Mexican food still very, very, very unknown. What we are seeing is that consumers discover the category in the away from home, and then they are trying to do or trying to make something at home. Or even in markets where the category is quite mainstream and developed, what we are seeing is that consumers try very sophisticated pieces of recipes, flavors, new dishes, and simply one of the struggles is they don't have all the components or they don't know how to make it at home. So I think it's the chicken and the egg, Inigo, and that's something that you've been capitalizing quite well at McDonald's, and well, I think the rest of industry is quite coming up to speed when it comes to that as well. But that's, I would say, the holy grail right now: how fast you can be making spotting a trend and delivering a solution. Don't call it product, don't call it service, delivering a solution.
Yeah, I was thinking in a couple of examples, which is okay, probably who makes universal the concept of the burger was McDonald's, probably with the McDonald's expansion. But also there are another categories which is super interesting. For example, nuggets. Nugget is something that I think that outside of US it was not a category before to start in McDonald's, and right now you can find a lot of nuggets, frozen nuggets products in the retailers. So yeah, it's as you say, it's a cycle. And right now we are living in a very interesting cycle because what we saw in the past that the people is taking care more in during the weekdays and trying to be more indulgent in the weekends. I think that something is changing right now about the habits. Yeah.
No, it's interesting what you were saying, Jaime, about like Mexican food, because me growing up here in Spain, it is true that Mexican food made the big boom when it like around big boom, relatively big boom, maybe 20 years ago, where people started adopting it because of the big commercial campaign that Old El Paso did at the time, right? And now you see other brands that you see how they enter the Spanish market through out of home, and then they expand their portfolio into the retail side.
Or trends that you foresee in TikTok or in social media, and all of a sudden we have had one of our most successful campaigns recently was with fruit snacks, and that became a global boom. And if the product's not available in the market, you want to find ways to get it. So the reality is that more than ever, we are producing, shaping, and capitalizing trends at unprecedented pace.
Yeah, and how is it like a methodology to spot trends? I mean, you and Iñigo were talking about a foresights department, which foresights imagine is like insights for the future, no? Or is that what it means more or less?
I would say yes. We have a couple of foundational insights tools. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am working in the global menu insights team, and then we try to do the same research with the same methodology for different markets to try to do a meta-analysis later to get a meta learnings. I mean that if we are running the same research in the 15 main markets for McDonald's with the same methodology, we are going to be able to extract that information and try to understand what is happening across markets, and then try to make global decisions, which is great. But yes, we have a couple of them, which is a foresight for sure, that they identify the most impactful signals of the change to provide a directional guidance in different scenarios, thinking in 3 or 5 years, more or less. Also, we use occasion segmentation, because here it's a very relevant thing, because the consumer is not always the same in every day and in every day part. So we need to understand the different occasions and the different needs states to try to bring the right product in each occasion. And then it's what we are trying to do with occasion segmentation, because it's how the customer make decisions before to go to the restaurant. And one, which is my favorite one, which is the menu architecture. It's for to understand how the customers make decision into the restaurant. Then we can compare in the food service landscape in every single market how the customers make decisions in the restaurants in each one. But for me here, David, and also it's a good question for Jaime. It's the tools are right, but sometimes you need to the tools cannot give all the answers, because when you are spotting a trend, you need to understand. You need to do a couple of questions: what and when, because the what is okay. What kind of things we need to? What is the solution that we are looking for? What is the problem, and what is the solution that we can try to get, and when? And here, talking about food, I think that the good example is about plant-based, because probably plant-based is something which is super trendy, and it was in the hype a couple of years ago. But we were keep an eye on the category to decide in which markets we need to go to the market, and in which markets we are not ready to go to the market. Then it's very important to identify the right moment that you can go to the market, because it's going to be a key of your success for sure.
Oh, and I want to echo on that piece, Inigo and Daniel, and I think more also on top of the formal tools that we have a recurrent refreshing and receiving data. It's two things for me. There's an always learning approach to capture the trends and to filter, and then the second thing it's about the eternal quest of finding actionable insights, because you're going to receive insights from so many places. And I think data is more accessible than ever, but information has become more complex than ever as well. And for me, the real beauty is in the quest again of making the insights actionable is how you connect the different dots, and you connect and you can shape an actionable opportunity. And ideally, that is scalable, but something that you are starting to spot that is emerging. But when you are seeing Inigo, the when and the what are promising, and you simply double click and you keep chasing on those pieces. Plant-based has been something that is okay, but I think, for example, the rise of ethnic cuisine in the different markets is something that it's a massive boom. Flavors, like for example, the rise we're seeing today in spicy food, and that's something that is shaking up across several categories. So those are things that they are not going to say 3 years in ahead, hey, I'm coming, right? So those are things that we need to be very proactively always tracking, but also proactively creating actions throughout the information available.
And we talked about like the McDonald's menu, how there's a 70% core, 30% variable part. What Inigo can a McDonald's menu tell us about food trends? So from your perspective, when you're looking at the menu, what can it tell us about it?
I would say that McDonald's is a good example of the famous quote which says, thinking global, acting local, because we are trying to have a global strategy, but at the same time, we give flexibility to markets to meet the local needs. And probably there are as many McDonald's menus as there are markets. So then McDonald's innovation process start always in the restaurant, in their cars, in their homes of our customers, where our customers are. And then this is, I think, it's the secret sauce of our success in every market, that we give enough flexibility to markets to understand the local needs, and then they can bring to the menu this market nuance. Even let me say some good examples on this, because despite of being a global brand, and as I said, every market has nuance. So would you say that McDonald's does not sell beef burger in any market?
I bet you do.
I can think of one market. Probably India doesn't, no?
Yeah, no beef in India. Then our menu in India is just about chicken and veggie options, but also it's a huge market for us, even not selling beef burgers. And it's more cultural, it's not more about trends for sure. But for example, in Japan, one of the best sellers, it's about the shrimp burger, because here it's very common to eat the shrimp burgers, and it's our one of our best sellers. Or for example, in Netherlands, which is more one of the most developed markets in terms of plant-based, we have beef and chicken mimic alternatives in terms of sandwiches. And probably in Netherlands, you are going to find more veggie options than other, because their consumers are ready for this kind of trend. But thinking on the big trends, probably the big trend for McDonald's in the last years has been the protein shift. We are tracking the shift from the beef to the chicken, because people is starting to consume less beef and starting much more chicken, and then we are including more chicken products in our menu. Then the fun fact in our menu would be that what is the best seller? What is the best seller globally in McDonald's? What do you think?
Probably the Big Mac.
Jaime?
I would say the same.
It's chicken McNuggets. Chicken McNuggets, it's the product most sell in McDonald's across markets. Yes, even there are, probably because it's what DNA of McDonald's, which is quick value and convenience, right? And then in the last years, with this protein shift from beef to chicken, the growth of this product has been amazing. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. And Jaime, how do you, like, when you look at out of home, in terms like to get ideas for General Mills' portfolios, how can you innovate? Like, how do you approach that?
I think we do leverage on this at a local, but also a global level, and definitely for example, our global teams in terms of innovation, they are constantly tracking these trends and capitalizing on them. let me share with you, for example, two of our latest big innovations. One that comes into my mind is Old El Paso Street Vibes, which is a completely new range of Old El Paso that actually has hit the markets a few months ago with great success so far, and it's inspired in the Mexican out of home Mexican foods, the typical cantinas. So all these recipes that in the past were exclusive of the either food trucks or Mexican restaurants are now available in a very convenient way to do at home. And for me, this is the power of niche becoming big and niche becoming massive. Who would dare to think 10 years ago that uh, Chipotle or a chicken tinga would be something that has a global appeal right now? Or let's get a little more sophisticated and let's speak about Haagen-Dazs latest innovation with a collaboration with Pierre Hermé.
With who?
Powerhouse Pierre Hermé, which is world famous macaroon brand.
Ah,
And come on, that's now again away from home or out of home meeting in home consumer occasions. And I think at a local level, and this is something that we are seeing throughout the world, and maybe is more close to IKEA than it is to foods, is the kitchens at home becoming the heart of the household, becoming the home. And if you're even seeing the architecture of the way houses are built right now, how many modern homes are built around the kitchen? Open spaces. So that's also something that is changing the dynamic, and we are seeing more, let's say, the cooking, an evolution of the cooking more as a task of something that is a pleasure. And more consumers evolving from the fact of I'm waiting for the weekend to do nothing, or the weekend to treat myself and go out, to the weekend to stay at home and prepare something special. And that special has several nuances, but that creates a huge pots of opportunities. But definitely, I would say, as we were commenting before, it's a cycle. And it's a cycle that will keep feeding itself, I would say, away from home and home in terms of food trends.
it's so interesting because it's like there's so many things that are like kind of counterintuitive in the way that you would think, okay, if a lot of trends are coming from out of home, that means that out of home is like the growing segment, but it's not necessarily like that because there's a segment of the population that every time is cooking more at home. And at the same time, in terms of trends, we talk about like indulgence and like these big burgers that have become like very fashionable, these big branches. But on the other side is the healthy trend, no? So it's really like, it's not like one-sided at all. Like there's so many blind corners now, I think.
Yeah, I like your example, Daniel, because probably for sure we are aware about the how well-being trend is impacting in our habits, but as I mentioned before, which is interesting is that as consumers we are not the same, we don't have the same needs every day and everyday part. Then that's the reason because we run a segmentation by occasion to understand what we need in each occasion. And then it's interesting right now because we are working at the same time in a project that we to launch the largest beef burger in McDonald's, which already it's starting in Portugal from 1 week ago. The name is Big Art. And at the same time, we are working on the nutrition project. And this nutrition project for us it's the focus that we have and the approach that we have, it's more to try to bring to the menu the right items in the right occasion, which means that at the end of the day, from my point of view, there are two keys that we need to tackle that to bring to that we need to work to tackle the opportunity on nutrition on healthy options, which is first of all it's the variety. We need to optimize our portfolio by occasion to try to bring the right products for the right occasion for the right person when it's possible, because one of the key things in McDonald's is to manage the complexity to ensure that we are the fastest, and then we need to balance very well the complexity and the variety. But here we are doing a great work on menu to try to ensure these kind of things. And the second one, when we talk about the nutrition and the healthy opportunity, it's about the transparency. I think that we need to empower to customers to make informed decisions with the proper information about calories, ingredients, nutrients, or allergens. Because at the end of the day, the customer need to make the decision. What he needs is to have the right information to make the informed decision. So variety and info transparency for me are the two key axes that we are leveraging to work on the healthy trend.
Very interesting. And how are you approaching it, Jaime, from a Gen Mills perspective?
They are very similar to what Inigo is sharing, and I would say this is something that for me it's I'm very passionate about seeing and tracking very closely how the healthy perception and the well-being uh, component in the decision for foods evolves in consumers. And one of the most eyes-opening insight I've gone through, and it was very recently, is how consumers are evolving that perception of the weekend as a moment I'm going to overindulge, moving towards the weekend as a moment I'm going to over take care of myself and I'm going to eat extra healthy. So the pleasure I'm going to have it's eating better or taking the time to cook a healthier recipe or taking more care of me. For me, this was eyes opening. I come from a culture, I've grown up in a universe that the weekend was a moment that you do. It was the all or nothing or this dated approach to health and well-being. And I think this connects very much with what Inigo was saying at the beginning, that healthy as a well-being is no longer all or nothing. And also the growing awareness of not all the calories are the same. That's one piece that is quite important. But also for me, and the counterbalance is that piece, and especially we see that in the moments of snacking, is that in terms of snacking occasions, I want to take care of myself, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the flavor. And flavor and that indulgence moments remains a key driver in this category.
Interesting. No, and that's the thing. I think it's also like indulgence can be like a part, quote unquote, more caloric or whatever, combined with something more fresh and good for you. Or it's also that part. And I think that so much that we're learning about like the order in which you eat foods as well and so on, and how it like influences your glucose spikes and so on, which is, it's a fascinating world, foods, isn't it? So around data, so obviously a lot of your insights are based on data, and we have more and more every day. How is that role of data changed in your careers in insights and marketing respectively? Because you've been doing this for a few years.
Yeah, well,
Not even that long, but data has changed so much, right?
Let me start, Jaime. Professionally, I was born in Nielsen, so working for the retail panel, and then I understood very early the power of clean, merge, harmonize, and analyze the data to make decisions. Even the business of Nielsen, it's about the how they sell the data. But when even when I had the opportunity to join McDonald's, I thought, wow, work for a retailer who is the data owner of the billions of data points would be absolutely amazing, and it is for sure it is. Just think that we do analytics for real estate to choose the right location, to we are doing analytics for supply chain for sure to ensure that everything is accurate in terms of forecasting, finance, and also for marketing, because our loyalty program right now has more than 150 million members who have logged into the app in the last 90 days. So think that we have like a big country, a big country into the loyalty program. So for me, definitely the data is the key enabler for decision making, and I love to have data to make decisions because right now it's much easier to discuss around the different topics.
And for me, I think data has simply move from nice to have, it's good to have, to something that is critical, to the point that it's a given. Also, the usage of data and the mastery of data as a core capability of everyone working in marketing. I think throughout the function, that's something that is embedded, and there is a need to manage that. And I love to think of data as a constant. Today, we are facing some issues that I'm absolutely sure in 18 months we will have different, absolutely different questions, and the availability of data is going to be something that hopefully we keep having, but the technical skills or the formula, I'm absolutely sure it's going to change. So managing that, mastering that is it's something that, come on, it's like right now for a marketeer.
Yeah, and why is it so? Like, can you give me like examples where you've taken a business decision where you think that data has played that critical role to like really like step change and deliver this proportionate growth?
And I can give you several comes into my mind, especially in an everyday basis, on when we have to decide where to play, how to play, and what's our right to win. I think informed decisions are a given, but I want to phrase it, and also taking the chance that Iñigo is with us in the call to put the spotlight on a few opportunities that playing is not the right word, but I would say playing with data and connecting dots. We've managed to deliver disproportionate growth in the past. And for example, one of the things we've been working on actually together on is how, when you mix different sets of data, you are able to cluster retailer stores in a completely different way. The way store across, for example, a market like Spain, when it comes to summer and solar creams, behaves is absolutely different depending on the geography, depending on the proximity to a beach, proximity, depending on different things. So it's sometimes for making decisions, but also sometimes for shaking the status quo, and that helps a lot. I'm completely sure, Inigo, you have a few examples on top of your mind that you can
No,
share.
it's funny because I was thinking in the example that you are talking, Jaime, because it was, I don't remember exactly the summer, but we had a request from the senior leadership team in L'Oreal Spain to maximize the summer campaign. And then as Jaime said, we say, okay, what kind of data we need, and how we can make decisions with the data that we have and the data that we don't have. So sometimes, which is important here, is that you need to be comfortable navigating in the uncertainty. So sometimes you don't need the 100% of the answer to move forward, because with the 80% you are okay to move forward and test and learn. And I remember that case because Daniel, let me bring some details on this. We identify the most relevant locations according to the seasonality population with a public data in Spain. Think that there are a lot of towns, a lot of cities in Spain that during the summer they have a peak of population, and then we use public data to understand how change the population during the summer or during the months of the summer. Then when once we knew the key locations, we prioritize the biggest stores according to the Trade Dimensions was the name, Jaime, which is a list of potential sales by store that Nielsen provide us to try to identify and prioritize the biggest stores. And then finally, we built a plan to increase the retailer revenue with the summer categories, mainly with sun care, as Jaime said. Then I remember perfectly that the summer campaign was very successful for L'Oreal, but also for the retailers, because it was a real business case that win-win, based on insights, good data, and how we can connect different data sets to help us to make decisions.
And I think the real beauty of it, and if you say, come on, it's summer, it's a very linear correlation, but the beauty of it is fine, it applies for summer. What if we start stretching this out to different categories throughout the universe? And this is something that is so obvious. For example, pharmacies that are independent, for example, pharmacies in Europe, there are independent groups. You have a certain assortment depending on the consumers you are serving. But imagine at a national retailer, how you can challenge a national retailer to rethink the way they are clustering a category like skincare, depending on the pot of consumers they have instead of the rigid. So once I think this is a pretty good example of how the power of data can really
And
unlock
successful.
growth opportunities.
Yeah, and it puts you in that position of being like the category leader, no, and the one that's leading the way in the category, which is also as
you're
a FMCG brand where you want to be first with the retailer, no?
100%. And I want to highlight here that it's not only about having the data or the amount of data. Of course, quality of data is critical, but it's the power. And this is something that comes with the right people of combining and finding the actionable insights. It's not about the data, it's about the actionable insight.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, now I feel like we should do a whole other episode on actionable insights from data. So we'll keep that option open. I have one last question for you guys, which is one that we ask all our guests, which is going back to the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about your careers and so on, which the question is very simple. It's basically, if you had to go back to yourself when you were starting your career with everything that you've learned, what would be that one piece of advice that you would give yourself? So Iñigo, maybe you can start.
Okay, well, let me think a little bit. Younger selves, I would say a couple of them, but one very important, which is long-term vision and think big. I think that the journey from here to there will be successful if you know where you are going. Because like in a road trip, if you know what is your final destination, you will know what are the stops or the milestones that you need to reach, to achieve your goal. It's like, okay, you want to go to Barcelona, but to go to Barcelona from Madrid, I want to stop in
Whether you have to stop there, whether you have to
Tarragona. Yeah, and then here it's the same. It would be great if you know what you want to do and you want to be, because probably it's going to be easier to build your road trip there. And the second one, which is very important for me and it's part of my lifestyle, which is the no joy, no job. I mean, if you don't enjoy what you do, try something else, because I think that when you are passionate on your job because you love your job, you have a personal advantage on this. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's very inspiring, Inigo. And well, for me, thinking of my younger self, I would say two things. First of all, is always prioritize the learning opportunity. Always. If there's two jobs, one with a higher whatever versus someone that has less of whatever but bigger uh, exposure to learning, always prioritize that. That's something that I apply myself and has always paid back. And the second thing is the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I'm a firm believer on deliver the basics and then excel and always deliver more than you've been asked. So come on, ultimately we're all in the business of serving someone or serving a bigger purpose. So really believe in those two things.
Absolutely. No, and also I think if you like up to a point act as an owner, no? I haven't heard this one in a while, but I think it's very valuable to act as an owner and act like as if the business were yours. So these are great advices, guys. So I'll try to quickly summarize a bit what we've gone through. There's a lot to digest, so I think I'll have to. I think I will have to. I'll definitely listen to this one again because I think there were lots of nuggets. So let's start with like the food trend side. So the way that the consumers approach food is changing faster than ever. That's already like an interesting one, and it's like foods that deliver more than food. Like it's not only like eating because you want to eat and you like a strawberry more than an apple, but it's associated to what is that gonna give nutrient wise, or how is that on trend or not even. So, and it's interesting because we talk like of a big number of trends, which I made the reflection before, but let me repeat it again. It's kind of contradictory. You know, you have like comfort, you have health, you have convenience, but you also have people that want to cook longer at home. So you have all these different trends, which I think is knowing more than to capture them more than being right or wrong here. We talked about different future shifts, which Iñigo talked about. So we had brand, I'll talk about a couple of them. So we had well-being and as a lifestyle more than a desire, which is interesting. Brand entertainment and sustainability. So the new generation is more conscious about that, which is good to hear because it means that not everything is lost. Because sometimes you see certain things and you think, where's the world going to? So it's good to see a ray of light here. Really interesting as well about the food service and away from home as a channel to really look at for FMCG food brands to see what's next, what their new product should be. The most sold product in McDonald's is the McNugget. At my surprise, now that I think of it, it's starting to make sense. And you can find shrimp burgers in Japan and beef and chicken alternatives in the Netherlands, which is part of like a big shift from protein within protein going from one and another. We also learned that General Mills released sweet Old El Paso products recently with a lot of success, which is interesting how you can really leverage a brand. We talked about also having the right items in the right occasion with McDonald's, looking for variety on one side, optimized by occasion and transparency. And yeah, Jaime from General Mills was also talking about like the perception of the weekend as an overindulging moment, maybe shifting to looking after myself moment. So again, it's not that you have to go for one trend or the other. It's about reading it and finding the consumer where they are. And finally, we talked about data, which needs to be the core capability of a marketer, and obviously for insights as well, where you have McDonald's, for example, as analytics for real estate, supply chain, finance, marketing, a loyalty program and 150 million app members in the last 90 days. So there's a lot to look into here. And yeah, then we talked about, and we left a door open to a second episode talking about like actionable, what actions can you take with data, which I think would be one very interesting one to cover. Hope I covered, was able to summarize this well enough. I know that I missed some things, but hope this was good enough.
Awesome.
Well, sure, Daniel. Yeah, it's a great summary.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys for joining me. Thanks to our audience for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG guys. Have a great day.